New year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Welcome to No Question About That. I'm Ed with Daniel today, and we're doing a Marcus Rashford retrospective. He's joined Barcelona on loan for the season with an option. Probably never see him play for United again, and we're going to review his career, why he's left, what he did right, what he did wrong, and all of that. Daniel, how are you doing?
I'm good. As you can see, I'm in something of a sweat because I've just come out of the gym and sauna. I feel actually possibly in more of a sweat than Marcus Rashford accumulated in the last couple of years. But this is not really, like the point in the end really with Marcus Rashford is, for me, he's still massively in credit as a United player. And he, in the end, ended up failing United. But if United hadn't failed him first, we would not be having this conversation.
I think that's right. I tend to come down on that. I mean, it was obvious. We all became body language experts, didn't we? Which sometimes I think crosses a line into something else, but we all looked at Marcus and wondered about his work rate and tracking back, as well as his performances and the lack of goals that came in what has been a streaky career anyway. But before that, I think one of the major points to think about with Marcus is how Ten Hag moved him from being in his most effective position to being in his least effective position after his best ever season for United, and it seemed to really impact his confidence and his output, his relationship with the manager, possibly his relationship with the club overall, and definitely his relationship with the fans. And so it's become a really sad end. Before we get on to sort of diving into the analysis of Marcus's career, I mean, let's talk about the move, shall we? It's the one he wanted. Apparently he spoke to Hansi Flick directly. He's got the loan to Barcelona. They have an option at 30 million euros with a penalty clause if they don't take it up. So United have learned some lessons from what happened with Jadon Sancho, I guess, and that one worked for us, sort of. What do we think about Marcus moving to Barcelona? Is he going to play? How's he going to fit into the Hansi Flick system? Will we see the old Marcus Rashford turning up at Camp Nou?
I mean, it's a great move for him. I'm really happy that he's got it. I hope he's able to make the most of it. And sometimes you do just need a change of scene, I think, where he'd gone stale at United. And if this challenge can't get him going, then no challenge can get him going. I watched quite a lot of Barcelona last season for work, and they're just one of those teams where you see they're a couple of goals down and you think, and what? Because they're so good going forward. I mean, I think that Pedri is probably the best midfield player in the world. I definitely think he's better than Jude Bellingham. And Lamine Yamal obviously is maybe the best 17-year-old the game has ever seen. He's definitely up there. Doesn't mean he'd be the best player ever. But just if you think about how good he is at 17, it's only really Pele that we can say 100% was better than that, I think. I mean, George Best was good. Duncan Edwards was good, but actually kind of dominating semi-finals of the Euros and late-stage Champions League games, we're talking really the very, very best, and also just the very, very best in any sport. Boris Becker, we're talking that level of I can't believe how good this guy is, and so you've got him. You've got Lewandowski, who's obviously coming to the end. Is Ferran Torres, have they sold him? I know they were thinking about doing it, but he was sometimes playing centre.
No, he's still in the club, but I think they're trying to get rid of him,
Rafinha was playing on the left last season, but they're sort of experimenting with him in a more attacking midfield kind of position. So, although if they were playing a Champions League final, it is possible that Rashford wouldn't start. He'll get plenty of games, and also something that he's shown both for United and for England is that he is the last thing you want when you've been running about for 70 minutes. You don't want him coming on because he gives you physicality, he gives you pace, he gives you imagination, all of the things that made him someone who, had he been in the right environment, would be a much better player than he is now. So I mean, and it's funny with Rashford, the person I always compare him to is Raheem Sterling. And the reason why I do that is because they're both wide players. They were both in Manchester at the same time, and they were both competing for England positions. They were competing for England positions against each other. I don't think it is remotely close in terms of natural talent. I think Rashford is miles ahead of Raheem Sterling. But it's Raheem Sterling with the numbers mainly, and it's Raheem Sterling with the medals because he was in the right place at the right time, just as Rashford was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, and I think that is the core analysis of, not only what has gone wrong for Rashford at United, but if you look back over 6 or 7 years since he broke into the first team, why hasn't he consistently hit the levels we know he can? I mean, it's really only that one season where he was consistently brilliant. And in fact, he had a kind of quiet spell after February in that season as well. And a lot of it has come down to basically systems changes and every year, and managerial changes quite frequently. And we've gone from a team that played on the transition. Well, we've gone from a team that was very, very stale under Louis van Gaal to a team that played very attacking transitional football under Ollie, to now what we think is going to become a heavy possession system under Amorim. And it's completely changed what is required of Marcus Rashford and the style of coaching that is there. There's been no consistency. That's true for many, many players, not just Marcus Rashford, right? How many, apart from Bruno, have consistently been brilliant over the period of time that Rashford's been at the squad? And that's not to absolve Rashford of any blame or fault in his own downfall at United, and we can get on to exactly what's gone wrong there. But it's been an environment which has been incredibly hard. The contrast at Barcelona, despite all their financial woes and the drama around the finances and whether they can register players or not and pulling various levers in order to sort the finances out, he is going to have a system that is very clear. Hansi Flick is, it's very, very clear, with a brilliant squad.
No defending ever.
And he won't have to do any defending, assuming that he plays either through the middle if Lewandowski is rotated, or off the left-hand side if they do deploy Rafinha in a different system. Barcelona are going to have 60 games this season, at least. And so he's going to get plenty of football. And presumably, Hansi Flick is going in with his eyes wide open about the kind of player, the strengths and weaknesses of Rashford. And that's why he wanted him. I mean, maybe it's because it's the cheap option for another attacker. Who knows? Maybe they would have preferred to have Nico Williams or Diaz or whatever. But, that may be to the benefit and they feel like it's a low-risk option as a result. But presumably, Flick is going in eyes wide open about what Rashford's strengths and weaknesses are. And they had a chat beforehand, it has been reported. So maybe it's a win-win all round, for them at least.
And it feels like he might need a different environment. And I'm not just talking about a football environment. Maybe he just needs to be somewhere where he can focus on football. I mentioned in a previous pod about him turning up to a poker game, and I only know this because I know someone who was there. But also, when you're playing a team, when you saw this with De Gea as well, who also went stale, you know that you're good enough to get into the team. You know that you're good enough to be in a team that kind of competes as well, but the team isn't competing. Then the desire to stick to the rules and improve yourself, you can see how it becomes a little bit harder to stick to. That's not going to be the case at Barcelona. It really is do or die for Rashford. So if Barcelona decide they don't want him, where's he going after that? Because Barcelona is somewhere, everything's in his favour. They'll play dominating football, he'll get loads of the ball, they'll have great players around him. Everything is there for him to succeed. And if he doesn't, the chances are it's going to be his fault, and he's not going to have that crutch of, well, United is a mess, which it is. That's gone. So I hope that focuses the mind, because it's funny, because if you think about when he broke through, he wasn't necessarily someone who the club was certain was going to be great.
For sure,
but
yeah.
When he broke through, and you suddenly, those first few weeks of watching him, and you're looking, hang on, he's quick, he's got imagination, he can finish. This guy could be special. And when you think, obviously, the couple of goals against Arsenal and the goals against Midtjylland, they were tap-ins. He was just there. But the thing about those goals that was so beautiful was they kind of evidenced the joy that he played with at the start, where there was an innocence to him, and it felt like good things were happening to him, almost in a karmic way, that his demeanour earned them. And then that interview that he gives after the Arsenal one, where he just starts giggling. When they said he scored twice, he's like, ha ha ha, just like the Europa. And there's that real purity and innocence about him as a player and as a kid that made you think, I like this guy. And then in this bizarre way, the cosmos starts working for him, where he gets those 2 tap-ins in each of his first 2 games, and he makes his England debut and he scores in no time at all. And he scores, I wasn't at West Ham in the cup where he scores that brilliant goal. That was the first game I missed because we couldn't get a babysitter. And my wife had to be somewhere for work, and I decided I couldn't leave. I guess she was probably 2 at the time on her own. Well, I'm not sure what she would have got up to. Stick her in the plate bed with some milk. And what was the worst that could happen? But I mean, I was at the City
child
game.
services might have a word.
Who's selling his grass into them? She can't talk yet. And I was at City when he retires Martin to McAllis, and that was kind of behind us. And when you're seeing someone scoring those goals, when was the last time we saw a United centre forward do that? Like the last United centre forward to sort of play regularly was Welbeck, who never quite established himself. And the United centre forward, the last homegrown centre forward before that was Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
There was something so inspiring and affirming about United creating a centre forward. And obviously there's then that time where, what position is he? And under Mourinho mainly, where Mourinho just acts like a knob pretty much. Do you remember the Brighton game where we get clattered? Well, there's so many of them. Yeah. Brighton games where we get clattered. This is like Jeopardy. And he, at the end of it, Mourinho basically sneers at the fan. United supporter goes, you wanted me to play Rashford and Martial, and look.
Yeah, Mourinho was always one for trying to make those points, wasn't he?
And there was a game at Southampton that we draw 2-2 where Rashford plays centre forward. And I'm thinking, do you know what? Maybe this guy could be a centre forward after all. But he ends up playing on the left wing, and there's that kind of left-sided attacker attacking the box. At his best, he was brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, there was that period where it was he a number 9, or is he going to play a left-sided attacker? And Mourinho eventually sort of bet on Rashford, I guess, and the club did by not buying another centre forward. Although we had Cavani and Falcao and whatever. I can't remember how much Falcao overlapped. Probably not at all. But yeah, that the point you made earlier about him in the age group teams and it not being obvious, I think that's very true. It was not obvious that he was going to absolutely make it, in a way that it was totally obvious that Mason Greenwood was going to come through and be brilliant, and it was totally obvious that Kobbie Mainoo was going to come through and be brilliant. That was not true of Marcus. It was happenstance. Now, maybe he'd have made it anyway, of course, right? It's hard to say, but he took that opportunity with both hands. And I think the contrast, go look at him at that time. The contrast of the joy of scoring those early goals versus the pressure that appeared to be, the weight of the world on his shoulders for the last year or so is really stark. And not the only Manchester United player in this period, in the last decade, that has had the weight of the world on them. And there's a hell of a lot of players like that. And fans don't react well to it. I made a contrast with Bruno earlier. Which players have been consistently brilliant? He's been consistently brilliant for 5 years, but the weight of the world's on him, and fans do not like him moaning and bitching and waving his arms around and complaining and all of that kind of stuff. So I definitely feel for Rashford in terms of the pressure that is on him. And if off-field issues have been a result of that or a contributing factor, I don't know exactly. He is fairly reserved. He's quite, I think it's understood that he's quite spiky with the press. He doesn't really like talking to them. There's a few on the inside. Obviously, Carl Anka wrote the book with him. He's Carl is very, what's the right word, circumspect about the information he puts out there about Rashford, not breaking any confidences. Obviously, Rashford did that interview with Henry Winter, which was kind of, has precipitated a downfall or was a contributing factor to it, I guess. But, you can just tell from his appearances in the mix zone, his few press events, the demeanour, if you want to talk about it like that he is feeling under pressure and not happy with the world. We should also talk about the periods where he's had kind of fallow periods, because there was that one season where he had both shoulder and foot injuries, and he played through it all of the time. He had injections. He ended up having the shoulder operation after that one. And it was probably a bad choice, either on the club's part or his part or the doctor's part. I don't know what mix of theirs there was there. It was probably a bad choice to kind of play him through those injuries, because I think it probably impacted him in a very negative way. He went away with the England squad when he should have had the operation, really, and had the operation afterwards and played how many minutes in that tournament? Not many. And, so some of the decisions of management or his team around him or the club doctors have not been great as well. Probably contributed to the lumpiness of his performances and seasons over time. And this is just, it's a microcosm of the club, isn't it? How, as a club, there's been no consistency, no planning, jumping from one manager to the other who don't look like the same kind of manager at all. We changed out 20 players under Ten Hag, believe it or not. The open heart surgery happened. It was just shite. So... And I suspect that's impacted him. Yeah. Surgeon was pissed. They replaced the heart with a potato. Yeah, it was. Just shockingly bad. And that's not to absolve again Marcus of his own decision making and agency, because he's got agency as a player and he is strong-willed. But I don't think it has served him well in terms of his career and his performances either.
Yeah, and I think one of the things. Speaking very personally, but we'll all have our own memories that I'll always be grateful to Rashford for, and also to Ole and Ole's team for in particular, is that lockdown. I think I've said this on the pod before, that we all have our own lockdown stories. For me, I guess it was looking after an only child. So suddenly my daughter's got no mates. So there's me, but I'm also having to try and get the schoolwork done and be a parent and be an older brother and be a best friend and all of that. And then at the same time, my wife's British Ghanaian and it's post George Floyd. So I've got that going on and I've got work. And United being good during that period, even though in some ways it meant nothing because there were no fans there, we didn't win anything. But when football returned and United were smashing everyone, and Rashford was a key part of that. Rashford, that front three of Rashford, Cavani, Greenwood, I can't even tell you how much I needed that. And looking back at it now, I'm not going, actually, I overestimated how much I needed that. I underestimated, if anything, how much I needed that. And then in the meantime, you've also got him taking on the government to feed kids. So, and I never felt that, at that point, I'm in my early 40s, I felt that I was probably grown out of revering footballers. And Marcus Rashford told me that I hadn't. Yeah. Because all of a sudden, we've got this bloke who's playing brilliantly for United, and he's also taking on the Tories and feeding children. I mean, it's brilliant to be about.
Absolutely. And I do think that fits into the ethos of the club as well. And both working class roots and what a club should stand for, and of all the shite at United, the foundation still does amazing work. And this was not through the Manchester United Foundation; it was his own thing. I think it's fair to say that it unleashed the attack dogs as well, right? You have a media in Britain that is quite homogeneously right wing. And he took on the Tory government, and I don't think it's
quite homogenous in terms of the identities of its proprietors and its writers.
And its writers. Yeah. British media is extremely wide.
And its writers.
You spent more time in newsrooms than I have, but yeah. And I do think that has, it's not, I'm not saying there's a one-to-one correlation between the bad press that Rashford has got about his off-field activities or his on-field performances and his political activism, but I'm saying there's a non-zero chance that one has impacted the other, right? And I think that's probably quite right. And I always found that quite ironic, like just how many negative stories there were, or the stupid stuff, like he went shopping in a Rolls Royce. So fucking what, In fact, yesterday...
What was he trying to buy in his Rolls Royce?
Yeah. I mean, it's not my choice of car. It's a bit gauche, but, fine. Like young footballers with money, he's probably got £50 million in the bank, he can spend 500 grand on a car if he wants, right? But even yesterday on TalkSport, Dean Saunders was going, he doesn't deserve, his points were, he shouldn't be driving his Rolls Royce when people can't pay their electricity bills. And he doesn't deserve his move to Barcelona. And I'm like, every single fucking time, like the coded language and these fucking gammons. And, I'm going to get a bunch of comments, in YouTube about using that word, of course, because people don't like it, but who cannot stand a young black man being successful. Like British media all over, like over and over again, this happens. And did it impact his relationship with United fans? I don't know, and I can't say whether that's true, but it's definitely the spike in that kind of coverage happened after his activism during lockdown, and and for whatever the wrongs have happened on the pitch after that with Rashford, I'll be forever grateful that he did that, and that there was someone, because most footballers don't put their head above the parapet. They don't want to be activists. They don't want this at all, right? They'd rather just get on with their job and shut the fuck up, right? But he did not, in a way that very few players would be prepared to do, and he deserved a lot of credit for that.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire an energy vampire. But also they're a literal vampire. And suddenly my team is spending all their time sharpening wooden stakes and buying bulk silver and rehearsing ancient chants, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant takes insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a short list of the best fits for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Right, and it's, I guess, as you get older, you obviously understand that when we talk about our football clubs, we talk about we are talking about ourselves and our identity and our heritage and all the rest of it. But whether we can claim credit for their success or not, I mean, it's not exactly anything we've done ourselves when they succeed. But
yeah, Marcus
Rashford I took pride in that. I don't know. I mean, I know it wasn't me, still wasn't me, but I took personal pride in that someone who played for United and someone from Manchester was representing the club and glorifying the club by making the world a better place, because ultimately that's why we're here, to make the world a better place in whatever way that we can. And I mean, it was one of those situations where I kind of thought, if I was a player, I'd be thinking, fuck, why didn't I think of that? But obviously it didn't actually work out like that. Just as it wasn't easy when Juan Mata starts donating his salary to Common Goal. Not sure he was backed up by his mates in the dressing room there.
He wasn't.
But I remember Ole saying about Rashford, we're very proud of him. And we were very proud of him. And the feeling that I had at that point was unlike any other feeling I've had watching United all these years, where United are taking on the fucking Tory government, man, and they're beating them and they're shaming them into making the world a better place and doing more for people that need it. And that's worth more to me than anything that you might criticise Marcus Rashford for.
Are we not making the world a better place through the art of podcasting, Daniel? Are we leaving our mark? I'm not sure. Not sure we are. It's definitely not on the level of feeding kids. Of course we are, yeah. We're making people happy or something like that, yeah. Yeah. No, look, that will be one of his legacies. And look, he's not done as a player. He's 27 years old. He's got another 5 years at the top. And he has a chance now in moving to Barcelona to reinvent his career and himself. His level of motivation to make this work, I imagine, is extremely high. He's got the World Cup at the end of this season. And there isn't an obvious player for that left-sided. If Tuchel plays a 4-2-3-1, it's unclear exactly what system he'll play. But if he does, it's not exactly clear who will play in that role. I mean, somehow he's got to fit Kane and Saka and Cole Palmer and Bellingham into that attacking unit. And they don't all go, but there's not an obvious one. I mean, there's Anthony Gordon on the left-hand side, perhaps at Newcastle. Is he at the same level of Marcus when Marcus is really playing well? I don't think so. So the motivation and the opportunity is there for Rashford to get it right. He looks extremely fit. He's obviously been pumping some iron. I hope it doesn't slow him down, but he looks in fantastic physical shape. He's injury-free now. He obviously got that unfortunate injury with Aston Villa. He's got the move he wanted. Barcelona's a fantastic city and place. Hopefully he doesn't visit the casino at the bottom of the Arts Hotel if he's staying there for a little while, because I imagine he is. It's the nice one. But he'll be back in Camp Nou, where Barcelona will start the season. It's completed or mostly completed, and be a credible atmosphere with 100,000 fans there. It's all for him to grab. Yeah, as I said before, he's got agency. This is him now. He should do it and force his way into that team and get a lot of games, score a lot of goals, and they'll take up the option if he's brilliant, assuming they can afford it. Because if he is brilliant and they can afford it, they're going to get a fantastic deal at 30 million euros. You know, it's very hard to find. I mean, Max Kilman went from Wolves to West Ham, and he's fucking shite for 40 million quid. That's nearly 50 million euros, you know? So there you go. They'll get a great deal. And if it doesn't work out, they can send him back to United for 5 million or whatever the penalty clause is, and the can has been kicked down the road, and we'll have to resolve that problem.
Hang on, that's not a penalty.
Next summer.
There's not a penalty clause here, is there? It's an option, not an obligation to buy, I think.
I think it was reported as an option with a penalty clause. If Barcelona don't take up that option, much in the same way that Sancho has done with Chelsea. It's a small fee, but you know, if it doesn't work out and he's with United, back with United, he'll have another couple of years on his contract, and United will have to work it out. You know, then again, there is a non-zero chance that Amorim is not the United manager at the end of the season. I hope he is, and I hope he's extremely successful, and it works out for everyone. And it could well be that, you know, if Amorim is not successful, the next manager comes in and says, hey, I want Rashford back. I don't know whether the bridges have been burned fully with the club. I mean, obviously, Sir Jim was very clear about supporting Amorim's need in an interview and said he backed the decision. So maybe the bridges are burned. They certainly were with Sancho. The club wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. But we'll see. You know, it's like I touch wood for Rashford. He's successful. And then we can have a good moan in a year's time about how United have screwed themselves over financially, but the player will have done well.
Yeah, you mentioned the World Cup.
One thing.
And Tuchel, all he has to do is do his job at Barcelona, and he'll be in that squad.
That's it. Yeah, he will. Yeah,
it doesn't. He just if he looks after it, if he looks after himself, if he gets himself physically and mentally ready to play for Barcelona, he will be in that squad, and there's a good chance to be a starter. And that's a shame for United, but it's clear that he needs this move. That Amorim arriving wasn't enough to get him going, clearly. So Amorim felt he had to get him out.
Yeah.
Based on what I've seen on the pitch, I couldn't argue with that.
It's fair, yeah. It's hard to argue with that.
It's very rare that we sell a player and I feel a bit unwell. And especially in this last decade, fucking hell. But even though I know it's time, and even though I know he's earned it, it doesn't sit quite right with me. There's no other option. I wish it hadn't come to this.
Yeah, a United Academy player, a striker, and as you said, so few of them, just so few strikers that have come through, who scored in his debut, in Europe, scored in his debut in the FA Cup, scored in his debut for England. It epitomises Manchester United and Manchester. He should have been finishing his career at United, and it's, everyone involved, including Marcus, should be looking at themselves and going, how the fuck is he not one of the top 5 goal scorers ever for the club? If not near the top 1, because another 100 goals or something, and he would be the top 1. And if he played another 6 seasons at his best, he would have done it. But it's not to be. What do you make of where it leaves the squad now? Because we don't really have any players. We've got actually going as well that will play transitional football. They are very much ball to feet, possession heavy.
I'm not sure. Not sure about that. In that Mbeumo played for Brentford, who are a big transition team, and Cunha's a really good ball carrier. So, I mean,
he's a great ball carrier.
I sort of agree with your point in that when United had those players, when we had Bruno, Rashford, Greenwood, Cavani breaking like that, and there were so many games where we were kind of under Ole in the COVID era, where we were down at half time and then just absolutely devastated teams on the counter afterwards. I don't know if we'll be as good as that, but we're not trying to be that kind of team. And the best teams, you want to be good on the counter, but the best teams, that's not how you define them really. But
for sure, yeah.
Don't know who the centre forward's going to be. But if your attacker's Bruno, if your playmaker's Bruno, and he's playing in deep midfield, then around him you've got Ahmad at right wing back, and Mbeumo, Cunha, whoever the centre forward is, you should be able to break quickly. But back to Rashford, if I may, quick. One of the other things that doesn't get talked about enough with him, I think, is big game performances. He scores the free kick against Vigo, for example. He's man of the match in the 2016 Cup final. He scores the winner against Anderlecht in another game in that run to the Europa that we might have lost. He animals Trent Alexander-Arnold and generally does well against Liverpool. He does well against City as well. His big game record is excellent, and that suggests, number one, a good temperament, someone who's not scared, and also someone who's capable of doing it, who has the ability to do it against the best players, the best teams on big occasions. And it does it again, and it does it for England as well in the World Cup.
And the penalty in Paris.
The penalty in Paris, indeed. And even the penalty that he misses for England against Italy. Saka and Sancho take penalties that are this situation's got big on you here, lads. They're kind of like that sort of mid-height that's easy for the goalkeeper to get to because it's got the least margin for error. There's more margin for error if you're going for up the corners, low and high. And what Rashford does is he executes his penalty, he executes his skill, he sends the keeper the wrong way, does it with the eyes, hits the post. But even that, he didn't bottle that. He missed his penalty, but he was out by a couple of inches, and it wasn't because the occasion got big on him. It was just minor imprecision of quite a difficult penalty that he'd chosen to be his. Again, suggesting someone who's not scared of the big occasions. He's the guy who's fighting to take those penalties. He wants those penalties. when other people were thinking maybe wouldn't mind if the manager or the captain looked the other way. So although mentally it feels like he's not been ready to play for United the last couple of seasons, the mental fundamentals and foundations that he has to play elite level sport have always been there.
Yeah, Amadou Onana gave an interview, I think I mentioned it previously, for the Aston Villa midfielder, and said you could just tell when he touches the ball that he's a player who knows what he's doing at the highest levels. Right? So I don't think he's degraded as a player. I never bought into the idea that he's gone and that's it. You know, the meme that was going around of, this is before he's moved to Aston Villa, of a balding Rashford in a Villa shirt, like the idea that he was a player that was going to, you know, Trashford and all of that. He was going to play a player on the way down. I don't think he's done physically. I think there were some issues with him, like maybe physically. What I saw of him when he was finally got fit for Villa, and it took him a while to get fit, and then he got injured. But in those moments against Paris Saint-Germain, was a player that has still got it, right? So if he's in the right environment with the right coach, he doesn't get injured, he stays fit all season. And he's not got a bad injury record overall, apart from I mentioned the shoulder and the foot injuries, and then last season. Then I think there's every chance he can reach a very high level again. And as you say, I don't think he's going to be fazed by the idea of playing at Camp Nou in front of 100,000 people, you know, and the pressure that comes with that. He wants it. That's what he wants, right? So there's every chance he turns out to be a brilliant player again. I'm not saying I could put money on it today. I would not be visiting Marcus Rashford's casino and putting a few $100,000 on him definitely being brilliant, but I think there's every chance he will be. And I hope he is. And I know that's not a very top red thing to say, you know, because if he's not at the club anymore, you know, he doesn't count. He's dead to some fans. But I hope he does really well. I have no animosity towards him at all.
It's the final chapter of the college football playoff.
It comes down to this.
Miami's unmatched grit and tenacity through the postseason has led them home. The national title now within reach.
They are confident. They are battle-tested.
Undefeated Indiana, led by Chris Signetti and Heisman winner Fernando Mendoza, have the chance to take home their first title and claim college football immortality.
The most remarkable turnaround in the history of college football.
The College Football Playoff National Championship presented by AT&T. Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app.
Maybe you like cooking. Maybe you don't. Either way, the new Blue Apron is for you. Because along with our classic meal kits, we're offering new pre-made and one-pan meals to help you get dinner on the table fast. And now there's no subscription needed, so you can just order and enjoy. Do delicious food your way. Shop 100+ meals at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Just imagine that we hadn't have him. It would have been even fucking grimmer by many orders of magnitude if we'd not have had Marcus Rashford. And it's only really him and Bruno we can say that about. If we had not had them, the obscenities that we've had to watch would have been a million times worse.
Yeah.
Even more illness than we've endured over the last decade. And for that, I'll always be grateful. As I said, I think there's a very strong chance he hasn't applied himself in the way that he ought to have done the last couple of years. We know for a fact that Ten Hag fucked him over positionally, just as he was starting to deliver regularly. Yeah. He was suddenly, rather than playing as an inside forward, was playing on the touchline because we don't fucking know, because that was bizarre behaviour from the manager. And it probably got to a point where he'd had enough. It was a grind, and he'd had enough. So, I mean, how many of us have not once felt in this last decade, watching United, this is a grind, I've had enough, I'm doing it because I have to, it's what I do. I'm somehow compelled to do it. But actually, I've had enough. It's pissing me off. Who hasn't felt that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, many of us. It did for one of our former podcast hosts on this here podcast, right? You know, you couldn't stand it anymore, so he quit.
Butler!
I know, part-timer. He only did the 500 episodes or whatever it was. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really hard decade, and it's been a really hard last 5 years. We've had brilliant moments, you know, many of them involving Marcus Rashford, but it's painful watching United. It's painful feeling compelled to watch them. There are times where you don't want to, and not always, but quite often, Marcus has been at the centre of the good moments that we've had. Right, you know, as near as the cup final win against City with that 50-yard ball to, out to Mainu, and just so many brilliant moments. And I am never going to be able to get on board with
just that.
Yeah,
that second goal in that cup final, where it was one of those he didn't really deserve to start because he'd been playing out his arse and Ahmad had been playing quite well. And I remember saying exactly this before the game, but it felt like there was no route to victory that didn't involve a significant contribution from him.
Yeah, and there was a major contribution. Yeah. I just finished my point. I will never go on board with and maybe it's a very online media thing, on social media thing, but I'll never be able to get on board with this idea that, we're delighted he's going. And there's been some like kind of prominent United fans, podcasters, media people who appear to be that way. And, my overriding emotion is one of sadness and disappointment that it has not worked out. I totally understand why he has to move on, and it's the right decision for everybody, but it's just a real shame.
Yeah. He's been essential. He scored some brilliant goals. He's been part of some brilliant goals, some brilliant moments. The last minute winner at Hull. I mean, one of the great goons that. Then there are so many. If you look through his goals, there are so many. And what I always liked about him was I liked the imagination in the passing as well. Even if the finishing wasn't always quite what it should have been or what it could have been, it felt like he was often characterised as someone who didn't have football intelligence, and I don't agree with that at all. I felt like his passing was excellent. I think his passing was excellent. Like the imagination of his passing was really good. The thing that I felt like he did need to work on, and does relate to football intelligence, was having a plan. So you'd sometimes see him burrowing into the box, and it didn't feel like he really knew what he was going to do. He was just waiting to see. But apart from that, I felt like he was, until he got moved to the wing, to the touchline by Ten Hag, he was on his way to becoming the best player that he could have been. And I think, I hope we see it at Barcelona.
All right. I think we'll leave this retrospective here. For people who want to leave an abusive comment in the YouTube comments, it's down below. And if you're watching on the video, if you're listening, leave your abusive comment in an Apple review with 5 stars. It's fine. Just do that for us. And we thank you very much. You can find our bonus shows at patreon.com/NQATpod. And we'll be back probably at the weekend with some commentary on United's tour to the United States, which Marcus Rashford will not be on, but Mateus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo will be. So we'll be seeing the future of wide attacking players for United there. Yeah.
Viva Mbeumo.
Very good. Yeah, go for it, Dan. See if you can get it in there. Dan, thanks a lot, everyone. Bye now.
See you guys. Thanks, everyone. Ta-ra.